So, welcome back, everyone. We have another Skype interview, and today we have Miss Bodine Victoria Johnson. She's an artist slash performer. She's also from the Bahamas, I should say that, my hometown. Welcome, Bodine.
Thank you so much for having me, Erica.
Yeah, so I know recently you dropped in a single, Sugar in a Plum. So before we get into that, tell us a little bit about the type of music that you put out there, like for people who don't know.
Well, I am multifaceted when it comes down to my music. So I started out in hip hop, transitioned into reggae with the Copycat Rhythm by Buff Boo Records in, let's say, 2005, 6, around that time. And then I translated that into more Caribbean music in the form of soca and Bahamian Junkanoo. So my style, I normally call it more of a Soca-Noo, which is fusion of soca and junkanoo. And then I also perform traditional Bahamian genres like rake and scrape, which is very much like bluegrass, kind of country music, because there's a link in between the two of them. So there's that, plus a little bit of calypso, plus a little bit of goombay, but just 100% island and Afrobeat. So that is essentially my range when it comes to music, plus a little bit of poetry and spoken word.
Okay, that's great. So you dropped your last single, your latest single on your birthday, and it's called Sugar in a Plum. So tell us the meaning behind that, and like kind of break it down for a Canadian audience who don't understand like Bahamian terms.
Well, Sugar in a Plum is based on a song that was popularized in my country by Exuma the Obeah man. His name is Tony McKay. He's a world-renowned artist from the Bahamas. And the song is called Brown Girl in the Ring. Internationally, there's an artist called Bonnie M that performed it in the 60s and the 70s. And I think they popularized it, but it is traditionally an African ring play. Is something that we of the African diaspora would have done while we would play with one another and talk with one another. And so I decided not to focus on the brown girl in a ring part, but more the sugar in a plum. And Exuma sings this line, "You sweet like a honey pie, you and your big brown eyes." And I loved that because it was an affirmation of not just outer beauty, but I interpreted it as a sense of the beauty of your character and your soul. So sugar in a plum accentuates and it affirms the wonderfulness and the beauty that you have on the inside that exudes itself on the outside. And it talks about the complexity of your soul, the complexity of your character, the beauty that is within you, the fact that you were born for a purpose and that you are able to do a number of different things all at the same time in rhythmic fashion, and you are important.
Oh, that's a great explanation, Bodine. Really like that. So I should tell you, I've always been a fan girl of yours, like always been a fan girl. You seem like you've always been like so confident. Where did this confidence come from, and have you always been this confident?
You know what? I've not always been this confident. What happened is, as a young girl growing up in the Bahamas, during the time where if you didn't have a relaxer in your hair, you clearly wasn't saying anything. I went through this period where I thought I was extremely ugly. I was dark skinned. I had an overbite. I had these two big teeth that kind of kept my lips from closing. And despite the fact that my parents would tell me that I'm beautiful, in my birth book, my mother wrote this beautiful inscription to me, and she told me that I am a queen. She named me after a queen, but it took a while for me to really gain some roots and life experiences that helped me to see my worth and my value. And that sense of self came from truly exploring what I know my purpose was and heading in that direction and being true to myself and true to the gifts that I have been giving and the ability to help other people see that gift in themselves. And so yes, I did get braces, but as you can see, my open gait is back. And you know what? I really did love my open gate. I loved it. I loved it, but I didn't like the overbite because the overbite, when I sat down on camera, it kept like it just was so strange. So I got the braces. I learned to embrace my hair. I now have locks. I love them. I can still wear my wigs when I'm ready to transform into a different character. And being able to show other little girls, because I teach and I have some kids that are currently struggling with the beauty of their skin and the love for their natural state of their hair and how to maintain and take care of it, which is a big part of the self-esteem journey, the self actualization journey. um, I'm able to help a little bit more. And I have a very supportive group of friends that call out foolishness and they encourage me or they help me to fine tune my dreams. And, they fix my crown. That's what I call it. They figuratively and literally, when that crown started to dip to the side, they'd be like, hold on, wait, suggest she. And that makes the difference.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, that's so important. Like back at when I lived back home in the Bahamas, I had this group of. I mean, I still have them at a distance, but coming here, like moving to Canada, it's like it was a whole new ball game because having that tight knit group of friends and supporters, and like they don't really take any bullshit. They tell you things as it is. That's so important. I'm starting to build
Mhm.
some friendships here, but I'm still holding on to my old friendships that I've had for years and years and years. So you were
Right.
talking about being an educator, and I know right now, like with this COVID-19 situation, it must be pretty tough because I'm sure you're still having some classes online. How are you managing in this situation right now with your students?
You know what? I get so happy when I can see them. We've Zoomed on a few occasions, but I find it easier to use Facebook Live because they're able to go back and watch the videos and they can post questions that I can come back and comment on after the session would have been completed. Some of my kids are having problems with technology because we were so notebook and paper based. They're learning how to submit documents in PDF and in document form and learning the other features of their phone and how to translate from social network or social speak to standard English through the
Mhm.
cell phone. So it's kind of reprogramming the way that they see the technology that they have at hand. On occasion, you have to follow up because some kids are in families where they only have one device or maybe two devices, two adults that are working from home, brothers and sisters that also need to be in school at the same time. So it has engendered a sense of patience on my part and also made the kids a bit more responsible for finding the time to prioritize their education. We know that schools are closed and there's a possibility that there will not be exams. And so we're trying to figure out, as many people around the world are doing so right now, how to best accommodate all of these kids and to reach all of the students that we can and partnering with parents. And so I'm looking forward to see what comes of this. And I like not having to actually physically touch papers and mark them with a red. So happy.
I also see that you've started online cooking. Where did that come from, and how do you feel? I mean, how did you get into that?
You know what? I realized that people like to see other people cook. And we don't have enough examples of Bahamian, or I would even say Caribbean cooking and recipes that people can follow along. And I decided last summer, I was in the house and, I started to post some things to my Insta feed where you can see the process of me cooking traditional Bahamian food. And I realized that my interactions, they skyrocketed. People everywhere were watching my stories. And so I said, interesting. And the more I did it, the more feedback I got, the more questions I got from people that were living at home and abroad who may not have had, the time at home with their parents or grandparents that I had to learn how to create certain things. And I come from a large family. I was always cooking. And as the oldest daughter, as the chitter of my family, um, I would help my mother out by taking some of those responsibilities off of her. So I have a little bit of insight. The only credentials I have as far as cooking are BJC Home Economics and BGCSE Food and Nutrition. And that's as far as it goes. I'm not. I tell people all the time, I'm not a chef. This is how I cook. This is my pot. You may cook it differently, but this is how I just do it, and this is what works for me. So if you're watching, this is what I do. And so I turned it into a series, and I wanted people to be able to search and find it, not just stories which disappear after 24 hours. I wanted them to be able to search and find it in the event that they wanted to see how something is done. And the response has been phenomenal.
That's a great idea, actually. Because a lot of people, they're just doing it on a whim. But the fact that you can now search, because I found your okra soup recipe. Girl, I've been dying for some okra soup, but I'm going to try it. So jumping back to your music now, and as a performer, as a Bahamian artist, a Caribbean artist, especially being a female, tell us a little bit about maybe that journey and what the experience has been like for you.
Well, I can tell you in terms of the experiences, one thing that I learned is consistency and quality of the music. If you look at my track record, I don't release 4 songs in a year. I release maybe one, sometimes 2 songs within a year. And if I would have collaborated with an artist and the artist would like to release that song, then I do so because I believe in putting out quality content. And I believe that everything that I put out has an energy and it requires the right amount of marketing. But I've also learned that it's important to keep yourself in the forefront of the community that you want to be a part of so that people don't forget or think that you would have been missing for a while. And you have to continue to push your project. I think that as entertainers, and in a second I'll go to what it's like being a woman in music, but I think as entertainers, we sometimes believe that if something doesn't hit the first time, that we have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing new music out, but it doesn't give our audience an opportunity to digest it and to follow us along on the journey and to see where we are in our artistry at that point in time. I am a business. I believe in getting a return for the investments that I've made. Music is an investment. It's also part of my artistry. And I create campaigns that will run maybe from 6 months to a year in order to promote it. Really and truly, music takes between 6 months to a year to actually get distributed properly. And then it takes another 2 or 3 years for it to begin to circulate and gain popularity. And so my catalog and library of music is filled with pieces that I'm still going to post and I'm still going to promote after 4 or 5 years to Africa, after 4 or 5 years to Europe, after 4 or 5 years to Asia, because there will be millions of people that have not heard it. I got energy and I will continue to promote this music. As a woman in music, at one point, it seemed as though our male counterparts, they dominated the music field. There was a point where there was literally only one woman that would be on stage during a male-dominated concert. Hepburn, and then it was a Veronica Bishop as the only woman that has been there. And, in the late 90s, early 2000s, then you would have Bahamian Sweet Emily. We are at a place where many of us have found different lanes that all lead us to the same stage where people can see and experience what we as Bahamian women have to offer in terms of music. I don't want to miss anybody that has really been doing what they can do in their genres of music from the Bahamas. And so now we have representation and we are in a place where we are pushing one another and we're supporting one another. A Tarolyn in Orlando who has collaborated with a number of international reggae and soca stars and just doing phenomenal work, and we're networking with one another. And this is what we learned. We learned that our strength is in supporting one another through these times, through posting each other's music, through making recommendations, through not trying to take all of the jobs for ourselves, through being smart with the collaborations that we undertake and our product placements and working along with brands. And while it is in no way easy, it is still challenging. being able to define who you are and your and knowing which things are for you and not being afraid or selfish and passing on things that may suit somebody else has been what makes us a bit stronger and a stronger force in the market.
What advice would you give to a young Bahamian woman or lady who's coming up, or even to a 10 or 15-year-old Bodine Johnson about, chasing your dreams?
Okay, I would say that you need to know what makes you happy, what drives you, what makes you want to wake up in the morning, those things that inspire you. And you want to study that. You want to eat it, you want to sleep it, you want to consume it, and then you want to put your own creative spin on that. But more importantly, you need to take internships. Those are important, whether they are paid or they are unpaid. Let's hope for the paid ones. But it's my experience that learning the skill is more valuable than being paid to learn the skill. Okay. And you have to be careful with that. Don't be exploited, but also have and develop the wisdom to know when something will work in your benefit in the long term. I would also say to you, find a titter or a community of titters. Titters are people that are going to teach you, they're going to discipline you, they're going to protect you, they're going to feed you, they're going to nurture you. They are the community of women that are going to mold you into what you want to be and still see the potential in you and allow you to grow. And when I say allow you to grow, I don't mean that they have the power to keep you from growing, but they're not going to put what they think that you should be onto you. They will allow you to be what you are and groom you as necessary. And so get a titter. Titters are important.
Great answer. Thank you. So, what do you love about the Bahamas? Everybody wants to come to the Bahamas. Everybody wants to. Well, right now, no one can travel in this COVID situation. But what do you love about your country?
Let me tell you something. I love the fact that I can be on a different island within an hour or two of jumping on a boat. I love the fact that if I jump off the boat to dive conch, that costs me $0. I love the fact that I can go to the farmer's market and I could collect fresh fish and Bahamian ingredients and I can create what I want. But more importantly, I love the festivals. I love the energy. I love the communal awareness of culture that we have and that we share, and the ability of us to share our opinions as respectfully or disrespectfully as we want. Bahamians, our mouth fast. Our mouth is fast. So sometimes we say things and it takes you a second to catch up and then we fire right back, and it doesn't normally escalate to anything more than just an expression of a heated expression of
Okay.
opinion, because it shows that we respect one another.
So, is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we say goodbye? Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I want to say thank you so much, Erica, for the invitation to be here and for you taking your time to give me a little bit of love, and congratulations on your blog and your website and your new magazine. You've always been a supporter of everything Bahamian and everything Caribbean. So I want to say thank you so much for helping me to get the word out. I want you guys to watch on Rev Cable 12 for those of you who are in the Bahamas, and I'll figure out how to get those of you around the world to watch Travolta Cooper's Where in the World is Wally. I play the supernatural character Miss Rovell in
Okay.
all of her evility. That's
Okay.
my word, evility. I want you to continue to follow me, Bodine Victoria. My other music is in Bodine. But to separate myself from the other Bodines in music and in entertainment, I have now rebranded to Bodine Victoria. Look out for my collaborations with other Bahamian and Caribbean artists. And of course, follow me on all social media platforms and through bodinevictoria.com.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for giving us this time to chat with you, Bodine. I really appreciate that. And I had a great time today. And we will chat soon. Thank you and bye-bye.
You're sweet like a sugar in a plum. Okay.
Sweet like a sugar in a ice, the sweetest black cherry. Juicy, delicious berry. Sugar wine, come and test me.
Sweet like the sugar in